I got asked by a member of the Strategy Finishing School via email. They'd just signed up to the school and they asked me, Julian, how do I make my strategies more concise? Like, I've got all this information and all this research, and this is the thing that I really struggle with, is like making my work concise. How do you do it? And I remember back to those days where that was a struggle for me as well. At the start of my career, I was like that strategist who'd do all the research and you'd find all this information and interesting stats and insights and data points and have this amazing story that you'd tell. But when you said, what's the strategy? You're like, well, it's the whole thing. It's all of these interesting facts, and that's why I think we should do this. But the whole thing was like 30 pages. And you're like, what I've realized is no one's got time for that. And I actually had a boss, and I told this in my webinar the other day, where he had a 10-slide maximum, where he'd have the Weather Channel on, and then he'd look at the Weather Channel if I was, if I'd gone over 10 slides. And so how do you get a strategy to be succinct and short? And the answer is strategy on a page, which is a formula that I use that I'm going to tell you about now, that has a number of key inputs that you want to create as a strategist. So in that, you start off, and I also sometimes call it the nested strategy, or strategy on a page SOAP. And the way that it works is, inside a business problem, you start with the business problem and business goal. Like, every strategy always has three pieces, right? The goal, where you're trying to get to, the problem that stands in your way, and the solution, or way around that problem. They're the three parts. When we talk about creative advertising and what we do with in advertising, we've got 2 points of view, which are, we look at the problem from the business perspective. Hey, what are we trying to do? Increase sales, okay, good. Launch a new product, got it. And then we also look at things from the consumer's perspective. Well, why would they buy this? What's happening in their life? What problem does it solve? What goal does it help them reach? And how do we become the solution for that? And then inside of that, we've got the insight and solution. Now, look, sometimes you don't need an insight. Sometimes it's very helpful. Someone will come up with the insight if it's a good, effective campaign. An insight being a revelation that makes you look at the problem in a new way. Well, everyone wants that, because that's what captures attention. Huh, I've never thought of it like that. Huh, that makes me reevaluate your product. So I call it the nested strategy, because I think of it like the Russian dolls, which sit inside each other. So on the very outside, and it's only one paragraph this, on the very outside we have the business problem at the very top and the business goal at the very bottom. I'll give you an example. I've got a couple of examples I know really well, so I'll give you one of them. Spotify. Spotify had a big problem. In 2018, they were really popular with Gen Z, Gen Z, Gen Y, but Gen X weren't spending any money on their services. But the interesting thing was, Gen X was spending a lot of money on music-related products. So there was a problem there. The goal was simple. We needed to get more people adopting streaming services. They were the leaders in the category, specifically Spotify. So they wanted to see an increase in the number of people. Now that's a business problem, under indexing. Goal, increase sales by this much. Increase market share by this much. Then when you go to the consumer problem, we've got to flip it. We've got to ask ourselves, okay, what's the problem for consumers? What's happening in their life? And what they realized was when they started talking to Gen Xers, they realized that this audience was starting to feel irrelevant, right? They said, I don't know where new music's going. I feel like culture and trends have passed me. I used to be cool and now I'm not cool. And they had an interesting stat, which was when you were 34 years old, you started listening to more older music than newer music, right? Newer music being made in the last year versus older music. So it was this moment where they were starting to feel culturally irrelevant. This fear that you have, like the world's passing me by, or I used to know what was cool, now I don't. Consumer goal was everyone wants to feel relevant. Everyone wants to feel cool and up with it. So that was their problem, was the audience was starting to feel irrelevant. The goal was, hey, let's make them feel like, no, you're on it, you're cool. The solution was Spotify, they realized, had this cachet about them. They had cool cachet where people were like, oh, this is a cool brand. We like this brand. And so they realized that they could be the ones, because a lot of people were not paying for Spotify because they said, oh no, that's for cool young kids. So they realized they had a bit of an audience here that they could engage with. So they said, hey, actually, what they realized was trends and stuff are cyclical. What's trendy today, or what's uncool today will be trendy in 10 years. You know, the cycle of, think 70s fashion, 90s fashion now. So what they said was, no, whatever you like is still relevant today or cool today. So the billboards, they had these campaigns called Listen Like You Used To, which was like 2018, Spice Girls are on 1998, Spice Girls are on tour. 2008, Spice Girls are on 2018, Spice Girls are back on tour. 24-hour party people in 1988, 2 to 4 hour party people now. And what they did is they were saying, you're still relevant and you're cool enough, like come here, we've got the music you love, which is still relevant today, and it's on Spotify. So you can see there, what that's doing is like solving two people's problems and getting them closer to their goals, but they're very different. And so that's why we like to put it there. Like the strategy on a page is great. It's one paragraph. Strategy is a paragraph. And it has all those important bits. It shows anyone who's joining the organization, this is how all those pieces work together. I can see how we're going to get to our financial goals if that's the accountant. It tells the creative, that's what I need to, that's why we're doing this creative campaign. That makes total sense. So a strategy on a page, that formula is really, really helpful to ensure that you stay concise and precise. Got any other questions? Feel free to ask me them, and I'll make a little walk and talk strategy confessions video. See you.